controlling chronic stress. Easier said than done, right? I mean, but the reality is, if you know how this process works, it's at the very least interesting information, okay? So when we're stressed, we have a response of adrenaline and noradrenaline, and therefore a little bit of cortisol. Noradrenaline and cortisol kind of work hand in hand. They feed with each other. Now, when we're stressed, we have that response and it's all good, and eventually we come back to life. But the reality is, when we get chronically stressed, we start adapting to that stress. Now, that adaptation to stress might feel like a good thing to our brains because we're like, hey, I'm just used to operating this high level of stress. It's all good. But the reality is, your body isn't adjusted to that. Your brain is coping with it because we are hyper-intelligent individuals with very active prefrontal cortexes that can convince ourselves to be okay in a stressful situation. However, that prefrontal cortex doesn't necessarily supersede what's happening at the cellular level. So what ends up happening is your noradrenaline and cortisol levels are still rising and rising and rising and rising, even though your brain is adapted to it. So your brain's being like, it's all cool, guys, we're good, you're good. But the body is still reacting crazily with a bunch of stress. That is exactly why stress has been dubbed the silent killer, because we don't realize what it's doing at an inflammatory level. So the best way that you can combat that is just do what you can to combat stress.